Alan James said that he wished there was more videos with regular everyday Joomla users on them. So I said, okay, Alan, let's have a conversation. Hey there, Joomla fans. Tim Davis here. I'm a Joomla fan too. Thanks for tuning in to the Basic Joomla Tutorials YouTube channel, where I show you my favorite extensions, tools, and tips for building and maintaining Joomla sites. I also work on Joomla sites, so if you're looking to hire someone short-term, long-term, or even just to get you out of a stuck position, let's talk. Give me an email, tim@cybersalt.com. This video is brought to you by mysites.guru. Head on over to mysites.guru and get a free site audit for your Joomla site. And if you decide to subscribe, while you're there, use the coupon code BASICJoomla and you'll get your first month free. Okay, so here's the deal. After talking with Alan, I'm not sure how much of a regular everyday Joomla user he is, but I did enjoy my talk with him. Probably going to talk with him again, and some of his own videos are going to start showing up here on the channel as well, because they're really great and they handle some topics that I haven't covered. So that is great. Now, this conversation is a long one, 2 hours, so you probably want to watch it in bits. In the video description below, I hope that there are time codes to allow you to skip to the different parts. Now, one favor I have for you, I don't have those yet. So if you watch this video without the time codes, if you wouldn't mind making a note when the topics change, just send it. Just put everything in a comment. I'll add them, and I'll pin your comment to the top first person that does that. All right, without further ado, let's hop right into this conversation that I enjoyed and recorded with Alan. Hello, Alan, and thanks for this idea of us just having a chat about Joomla.
Hi, Tim. Good evening to you. Well, I say good evening because I'm in Ireland and obviously you're in Canada. So it's morning time over there and evening time over here. But I think great. I mean, I'm glad you thought it was a good idea to get together and talk about Joomla, because I've searched the internet. And although there's people talking about Joomla, they're very specific. They're pushing the product and everything else, rather than just have two guys talking about their experiences with Joomla and what we do with Joomla, building websites and stuff like that.
Yeah, and as far as things go for on my YouTube channel, sometimes it's like pulling teeth to get people to actually come on. So when you contacted me and said, hey, it'd be nice to see some videos, people talk, everyday people talking about Joomla, I thought, hey, someone who wants to talk. So that's good. Now, having said that,
okay.
When you were sharing some of your ideas of what for us to talk about, and then heard about your background, you're not exactly an everyday Joomla user, are you?
well, let's be honest, right? I kind of do stuff for personal reasons now, and I do the odd website to help people out. It's not really a business for me. Yeah. And it's something that we'll get into about if you want to do web design and you're in the business. I mean, my background is corporate IT. Okay. And I used to live in London, and I climbed the corporate ladder and I did all the corporate stuff. And I decided that let's just say I'm semi-retired. So I just find web design and doing a bit of graphic design quite interesting and entertaining. And I like a bit of a problem. You know, when you have that Joomla problem and you're scratching your head, yeah, and you go, oh, there must be a solution. And I had this the other day. I was trying to get a background image on an article to line up. And I thought, oh, this is a 5-minute job. And I think I took about half an hour to work out the right code to do it. Yeah. Well, I got there, and then you kind of, yes, I'm going to have a cup of tea now. I'm happy with that, but I haven't, like you're kind of in it for the business. You're on the business end. So I take my hat off to you and what you do. And I will say to people, I've gone to your website for help. I've gone to your tutorials for help, because I always say, hang on a minute, Tim might have done this. I'm going to fly over there and look. And a lot of the time you have done it, and it's great. And I'm going to give you credit where credit is due, right? Now, I'm a qualified IT trainer. So I've been used to do IT training, right? And a lot of the time in the IT industry, what they do is they get the guy who's the techie and they go, you're the techie, so you should do the training, not realizing that training is a skill. there's an art in training. And I've watched your videos and you are very good at what you do with the training. Now, I don't know whether you're qualified as a trainer, but you should do it because you come across very well on camera and you get to the point and you keep it simple. And that's the key part of training. So I just want to say well done for all the videos that you've done.
Oh, well, thank you for those kind words. I wasn't expecting that. Makes me think I should have had you on a video call a lot sooner. Well, I appreciate that. It's funny thing is because I sometimes watch my videos to remember how to do something. I think I did a video on this, but no, I'm glad that that's helpful. The whole beginning of my site, of the channel, I think it was maybe like 7 years ago, is I was trying to figure out how to change custom CSS on a rocket theme template. And I was finding the resources online that showed me how to do it, but the terminology was different as what, so sometimes technical stuff gets explained. Like I say this, if it's everything is obvious to the person who knows how to do it. So I knew I was reading the right words, but I didn't know what they meant. So after a couple hours, it was all simple and laid out well, so it wasn't a problem there. But after a couple of hours, I figured, I found out how to do it. And so I thought, I could show how to do that in 5 minutes on a video now. And so, so very much it's just, as a self-deprecating humor, but very much it's just videos by a dumb guy who's figured out how to do it and showing other people how to do them. So, but I appreciate you saying that. And I've done a lot of training and teaching and counseling stuff over the years. So where I lack on technical things, I'm attentive to where people are at and trying to help them here because to really help someone, they have to be helped, right?
Exactly. Well, I've done a few tutorial videos on Joomla. And like you, for the reason you did it is the reason I did it, because I know that somewhere along the line, I'm going to forget how to do that. And I thought, well, look, if I do a video and I put it online, and I have done it, I've gone back to my videos and go, how did I do that? And then you go back and watch the video. So there's a kind of method to our madness, really, that, by doing that, you do a video, you can go back to it. But I would like to see, I just think Joomla has so much potential, and WordPress seems to get the spotlight all the time. And I think that's unjustified, because I think Joomla has a lot more to offer as a CMS system than WordPress. And I just would like to see more discussions, more people using Joomla and supporting Joomla. Like I know that, for example, we tend to moan about the template issue with Joomla. WordPress, there's so many free templates out there, and there's not that many Joomla in comparison. But there are some out there, but not as many as WordPress. And I'd love to see a lot more out there. But, so maybe we can start something by having these discussions and getting people more aware of Joomla. It might be the starter to better things,
So go ahead and what's your Joomla story? How did you? Well, first of all, tell and we left this very much up in the air, and so that instead of being rehearsed, we've never even really had much of a conversation about who's who or whatever like that. So first of all, so who are you? Tell me about your family. Tell me about your life there.
Well, as I said, I'm ex-corporate. I lived in London for 17 years, and I climbed the IT ladder. And I did all the IT management and did extensive traveling and took care of IT infrastructures, budgets, and I got to the top, and I kind of decided that a change was needed, so I moved the family back over to Ireland, and my partner got a job, so I said, okay, I'll do the family bit. But I will set up a business, and I'll do some IT work, which I was doing as contracting. And that covered everything from IT support, as you do, you get call outs, to everything else. And then people are saying, look, this website, we need a website, how about websites? And I thought, well, I learned a little bit about HTML because one of the things I did in one of the corporate companies, well, now let's go back to the 90s, right? This is going back a long time, where intranets were not really discussed and it was something, new. And I got the ball rolling with a corporate internet over there, and I started setting up a HTML, very basic stuff, but we had an intranet in the corporate business, and the management were looking and going, actually, this guy is onto something. This is a good idea. Photos to the staff and personal information. So that's really when I got into designing, and then I got into Dreamweaver, like a lot of people did, to start using Dreamweaver. And I learned a little bit of ASP. And I remember I was on a flight over to San Francisco, and we were having a global IT meeting. And I was in the plane sitting on my laptop, and I was doing a bit of ASP stuff. And the flight was about 10 hours. And about 2 hours to go, I found out that the guy who was sitting beside me was the developer of ASP who sold it to Microsoft.
Oh, wow.
And I said, I could have had 10 hours of ASP training from this guy. And I only found out after 2 hours to go that he was the ASP guy. But yeah, so that was really it. I started using basic Dreamweaver and doing websites. And I just said, you know what, sitting down, trying to open up databases and close databases and the security involved and everything else. I said, there has to be a much better way. And I knew there was content management systems out there because I seen in the corporate world they had different systems. And don't ask me how I came across Joomla. I really don't know, but I remember coming across Joomla, and for 3 days solid, I just, now I didn't know anything about CMS and how it worked. I was completely new, but for 3 days solid, I just threw myself into it. And that was really the start of, setting up basic 1.5 Joomla websites. And then I went on from there, so I did the odd website, and I sold the odd website, and I built the website for customers and stuff like that. But it's a hard business, and I take my hat off to you for what you do, because you know yourself, Tim, people will come to you and they want the Ferrari, but they only have the price of a Mini to pay for the website. And they don't understand, the more work you do, the more expensive it is. The less work you do, the cheaper it is. But sometimes they don't want to do the work, so you have to do all the work. And the simpler the website is, that means you've put a lot of work into it to make it that simple. And then you have to back up the system, the admin with the website, and if there's any bug fixes or anything else, all that has to be considered, because sometimes people will say, right, Tim, we need you to give us a price for a website. You go, well, the website itself is going to cost you $500, whatever, $1,000, whatever. And they go, okay, that's great. And you say, well, here's the admin. And you think, oh, you mean when I buy the website, I thought all that came with it. And you go, no. You buy the website, you just got the product. Then you have the hosting, and that has to be paid for, and domain names and admin and all that. So I kind of got disillusioned a little bit with people wanting to come in, and they give you I want a website, and then the violin comes out and it's, but I've no money. And I kind of said, you know what, I'd rather just kind of do website for myself and for people that I can help out and groups that I can help out. If they donate a few quid, that's fine. So I do take my hat off to you, because I know it's a business for you, and you've obviously done very well with it. And the videos that you're doing, they should be out there. Everybody, more and more people should be watching your videos, because I have seen a lot of videos, and you are, and I'm not, I don't want to give you a big head, but you are probably one of the few people out there who can do a decent tutorial and explain it correctly.
Well, I do have a big head, but that's from birth. So,
So tell us your background. How did you get into Joomla?
No, I got Dreamweaver in there as well. I think before Dreamweaver, I was using Microsoft Front Page.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. But my story, back in back in the mid 90s, I was chairman of a communication committee in our in one of the regions in our denomination, and the fax machines were still just pretty new. And I thought, well, the idea of someone could just fax me information for this newsletter I had to put together, that'd be cool. So just the technology side of it. So I actually said to the committee, I said, hey, I'd like to get a fax machine. And they just kind of laughed at me. So, but eventually got online. Someone got us online, and I started, that was like back super slow connections. And I was, I'd always been looking for, just playing with technology, looking for its applications to ministry, but also just enjoying it myself. And I reached, I guess in 95, my time at a church where I was associate pastor had come to an end. So I was looking for another church, and there was, and so this is in 1990, 95. There's no site for, I was looking for a site that had churches looking for pastors looking for churches. And so I kind of had an idea that would be a great business to start if I didn't find another church. So I ended up going to church here in Victoria on the West Coast of Canada, and but still had that idea there. Then along the way, I started making, if you put ads on a web page, even if people just viewed the web page, you got a bit of money. So my goal was like $1 a day. I could probably afford a pizza a month. And I had a joke list that I was sending out, was picking up subscribers. So I started making pages every day and sending people to it. And I was using Microsoft Front Page, and things didn't always stay where you wanted them to stay. And then I started using Dreamweaver, which was great. But all of my pages were square and boxy because it was all tables. And I would look at websites that looked beautiful. And I thought, man, I wish I could make websites like that. How do they do that? So I ended up having a hosting account at a company in Florida, and they had this quick installer, not Installatron, not Softaculous. There was another one. Anyways, you could install all kinds of programs and stuff, different programs. So I thought, oh, let's see what some of these are, because I was always fascinated by this. So there's one, WordPress is one. So I installed it, and I thought, okay, this is interesting. But I couldn't make head nor tail of how to do stuff on it. It just didn't click with me. I thought, okay, oh, what's this one here? Mambo. So I thought, well, what's Mambo? So I installed it, and it was a similar thing, but it just clicked. It just made sense. Put a title here, put the content here. And then I discovered the template system, that you could actually buy a template with a look that you want, install it. And I thought, oh, there's the secret right there. So I did buy a template for a site. It was that I liked, for my site. I liked the look of it. And for me, I had content that I wanted to get on the site. I had to do it every day. I just wanted it on there. That's all. I didn't want to know how to design. I didn't want to know how to change a color. It was like, I just got to get my content out. Because I would send out the newsletter every day. People would go to a page that I'd featured a funny cat picture or funny picture or whatever, quotes. And then that was making me $1 a day. So then shortly after, when I got going with Mambo, then I got wind of the fact that there was some disagreement going on inside Mambo, and that there was going to be a new product called, a bunch of people were leaving. They're going to do Joomla. So I had no idea which way to go, and I didn't really understand. I read up a little bit on it, and as I looked at that, well, it looks to me like the key people that are part of Mambo, as far as it being actually what it is and the product and that, they're going with Joomla. So I'm going to go with Joomla. And that's how I ended up going with Joomla and being with Joomla ever since. So so for me, it's very much has been get the content on there. Now, of course, over the years, I started building pages for myself, and it would help some others. Then I had a friend here in Victoria that had a web hosting company, and they didn't have anyone doing on staff doing web development. So I said, well, I'll do some websites for your clients. And it started growing. And long story short, probably too late because it feels like I've been talking a long time. In 2017, my wife and I felt it was time for a different season in our life. So I stopped pastoring local churches, and now we're working with refugees. But things had grown to the point where it's like, I think that I think I can go full time off of my business here, which not only Joomla, but doing narration and doing a lot of other tech things for people. And so, yeah, it's only been just over 4 years since I've been full time. And I'm glad that when you said, I've obviously been very successful, I'm glad that's how it appears. Because I think maybe we'll talk about this later. One of the secrets of starting a business and growing a business is not overselling yourself, but you also have to project yourself. And just so if you project an ability to do something and you can't, then you'll quickly are going to end up in a mess. But I'm still working at my business. It still does not yet replace what I was making when I was pastoring. In fact, when I was pastoring, the money I was making on my Joomla stuff it went from fun money to extra money to now I'm living on this money as well with my salary. So when I stopped, when I went full time in Joomla, there was just that this is helping money, and then of course building it up. So, but like I've said, we don't live under a bridge. Some months I've been able to see the bridge from my house, but but it's going well, and I'm grateful for the way that feel blessed and that God's been providing through it. And like I said to you just before we start recording this call, I just came from meeting with a business coach, and I actually have my first employee now through he's a university student, and I was able to hire him through some funding from the federal and provincial government. So that's great. So I'm going to get him working on some things, and then hopefully be able to keep employees afterwards. So.
Yeah, no, that sounds great. I mean, any business is difficult. I mean, my core business is actually not technical stuff. It's radio communications. Because I'm trained in that. I'm a licensed amateur, and that's my core business. Believe it or not, even though I have an IT background, I really I'm into the radio stuff, and that's my kind of hobby business. But the web design stuff, the good thing about web design, and this is what I like about it, it's very visual. When somebody comes to you and goes, Tim, I'm looking for a website, and you go, well, here's a host of websites I've designed. And they'll either turn around and go, yeah, great, I want to use you. I want you to design my website. Or they'll go, no, you're okay. I'll go for somebody else. So it's a very visual thing, and it's very upfront, which is great. Because a lot of the time you could hire somebody like a consultant, and they'll tell you on paper that they can do things, but sometimes they can't. Where when you see somebody's work with web design, they'll see your work and they go, okay, this guy can do, he's competent, he can do the work. He has clients, and there they are. So that's the good thing with web design. It's very upfront. So when people give you the business, they've already seen your work. So you don't have to prove anything, but you've just shown them. But I think what's important is with web design, I know when I was doing the web design, I had to remember what my limitations were. I'm not a programmer. I'd love to know how to program. I'd love to know how to design Joomla components and modules and plugins. If I could sit down and write PHP, I could have a plethora of them plugins, but I'm not a programmer. I don't have that programming mind. And I'd love to be able to do it, but I can't do it. So I knew that when I started doing web design, I had to know my own limitations and don't overpromise or commit to something that I can't do. Now, in business, normally what they say is that tell your client that you can do it. And if you can't do it, hire somebody else to do it and charge them to do it, right? That's the trick. And I actually did that with one client. I had to design a very funky search routine. And they said, can you do that? And I said, yeah, no problem at all. And then I went out, I had to track down a SQL programmer, and I had to pay her to come to my place, do the programming, and then there you go, there's your search routine. So sometimes you have to do things like that.
And that's basically the work of an agency. And I'm very much of a just going to figure it out myself kind of guy. And I have to get away from that because especially now that I'm doing it it's what puts food on the table. I say to people, I have an addiction. I'm addicted to food. Sometimes I have to eat 3 times a day. So, so that's been, whereas I had lots of room to I enjoy helping people, but I've also had to learn that, I've got to charge and stuff. Years ago, there was a client that contacted me, and we're talking like, this would be like 12 years ago, 13 years ago. So what's this? Is 2022. So, maybe around early 2000s. He wanted to have PowerPoint presentations viewable on a website, but only if someone had paid to see them. So I went and met with him, and he told me what he wanted. And I knew there was plugins for Joomla, and there must be some way to, anyway. So I said, oh yeah, that should be able to do that. Yeah, sure. That's fine. So he was all excited. I specifically remember getting in the car and leaving as I was driving away thinking, I wonder if I'm going to be able to do this. and it turned out that there was a Joomla, there was a plugin that had been used for Joomla, but they're actually, the secret was to find a site that you paid to see you paid a membership to see they could display PowerPoint presentations. And all I did was put the links behind a membership on the Joomla site, and it worked out. Those people were thrilled. They were my biggest client for 11 years, and I did tons and tons of work for them, narration, online course things. So sometimes I don't roll the dice too much now. I feel pretty confident because I know a lot of people and know how to find people and reach out to them. So, and then in that case, it's just being, can the person afford? Because programmers, and rightfully so, they're skilled, and they should be paid well, and not, I've actually sometimes convinced people to just go with not convinced people, but said, hey, it's going to cost this much to have it custom programmed, but here's a plugin that will do something pretty close to it. So, it depends what your budget is. And they go, suddenly it's like, oh yeah, that's just use the plugin. So.
Yeah, that's the thing. I would say that to my customers, or the people I would charge for a website. They go, how much does a website cost? And I say, well, what's your budget? Because your budget's going to dictate what website you're going to get. Yeah. I'll give you what you want depending on your budget. But again, sometimes they say, well, I want all of this, but I only have this. And you think, well, I'm sorry, but we can't do that, So you come to a compromise when it comes to it. But I know that, this talk is really about Joomla and where we are with Joomla. And so at the moment, we're on Joomla 4. And how are you getting on with it? Because I'm on most of my websites are version 3, and I've now 2 Joomla 4 sites. And I was a bit of a head scratcher with the new interface with Joomla 4.
Yeah, I've heard people's discussions and discontent with the user interface in Joomla 4. So I notice for myself, it's the lack of what I've been calling muscle memory. I go and look. I want to go to users and edit a user, and so my hand on the mouse just automatically knows where to go on the screen. It's already there before my eyes are there. I hit it, I know, and everything. So now in Joomla 4, it's like, and I'm reading, oh, user's great, and then I get in there. So it's still similar. Now it is more clicks, and then in Joomla 3 to get to where you want to go. Some things are organized differently. Foca, Jan from Foca's got a really nice module that will put the drop downs back in Joomla 4 like we're used to. There's some other, I've looked at a couple of, and done some videos on some other options for alternative views in the back end, and that's being that. But I'm okay with the back end of Joomla 4 as it is. And part of the reason is that it was so long in coming. At some point, you just have to be happy, right? And I realized too that the Joomla 3, Joomla 3, which is now version 3.10, after so many years, it's awesome and has tons of stuff in it. And Joomla 4 is going to have, I think it's great. It's faster. There's some of the new things that are wonderful. But some of those little things that need to get ironed out, like the back end or options, other people are going to come up with things that you can install and you'll like it, and we'll all get used to it and have the muscle memory for finding a way around it. And I just think that, man, happiness is a choice sometimes, right? And so Joomla 4's here, it was out, and it's like, let's just be happy for a while and move forward. And so I am slower, especially when I'm doing a live stream and moving around. I'm quite often I was going to think, well, now let's go to, and it's like, oh wait, that's the install. Instead of going to extensions and install, now it's install, and then you go to extensions and you have to find it, and I click the system. So it's starting to come along, but it's just new. And listen, I don't like new stuff.
Nobody does. Nobody likes change. We don't like change.
And my reaction to new stuff, especially as I get older and I'm watching out for it, is to just think, oh, this is stupid, or oh, why did they do this? Oh, this that's a dumb way to do it. And really what I'm looking at is like, I just don't want to. I mean, you and I are doing tech stuff. There's no end of things to learn or to solve, and sometimes it's just like I just want something to be familiar. So I think some of people's reaction, not all of it, because there's people that know more about user interfaces. There's people know more about programmers. People know more about it should have been done in this language and then this blah, 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 blah. But I don't know any about that. I just know from my user experience that if I just acknowledge Grumpy Tim, then I will be able to, I'll figure it out. And so I'm starting to move around. I don't have many of my own sites in Joomla 4. Just because I don't have a lot of time to work on my own sites. And I think there's a few, there have been a few extensions that I've been waiting for, and fair enough for the developers that are still working on bringing in Joomla 4. I don't blame any developer who doesn't have something ready for Joomla 4. I know I've seen some comments, people saying, oh, it's just the developers are slow. I know that a lot of them just waited till something there are going to be no more changes till the, I guess that's at the beta or alpha beta. Anyways, when there was a release, there'd be no more new features. Then they would start to spend their time updating it. So there's a few things still for some of my sites I'm waiting for. But
there's a few things in Joomla 4. I do like the interface, and I'm kind of getting used to it now, and I like it. And I think I will be porting, obviously, my sites over. Now, funny enough, today I got a phone call from my ISP. My ISP is probably one of the few ISPs that use the Plesk control panel rather than cPanel. Yeah. Most companies, most ISPs use cPanel. They're using Plesk. Now, he said to me that in a few weeks' time, they're upgrading all their systems, and I'll have a choice between cPanel and Plesk, but I need to set up a brand new account, and I'll have to manually port all the sites over. So lucky enough, I was going to do that. I was going to do the upgrade quite soon. I said, no, I'm going to hold off now, and I'll wait till that happens, and I'll move things over. But with Joomla 4, there's certain things that should be there by default, and one of them and maybe it's just me having them on, is a reset counter on your hits on articles. Because when you develop a website and you're going in and out of the article and you're checking before you go live with the site, the hit counter goes up all the time. And you think, well, okay, now I'm ready to go live. I want to reset that counter to 0. So now when people start accessing the site, I'm getting true numbers to see what's coming up. Now, I know you can get a plugin to do it, but I think something like that should be part of the core of Joomla. So that's just a little gripe I have. And there's probably one or two other things as well, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah. A while ago, I was thinking, there's a lot of things that would be really great to add to the core. So for instance, Regular Labs has an extension called Better Trash. And interestingly, Peter Van Westen was, I don't know if he had his daughter using a site or she was watching, but she said to him, why does the trash work that way? That doesn't make sense. So he basically, got her ideas and looked at it. And so he came up with Better Trash, and it's wonderful. So I put it on my site. So, right now, if you trash an article, you select it. I haven't done this in Joomla 4, but in 3, you select an article, you trash it. And then if you want to empty the trash, if you click on the trash button, it says, no, you have to select an article to trash it. So then you have to filter and show all your trashed articles. And then then you have to select them all, and then you delete them permanently. With Better Trash, you click on the trash button, it opens the trash. I mean, you can trash articles with it, but then there's a button that says empty the trash. You don't even have to select things. So it's much better. So in my mind, that would be great to have as part of the core. Now, we wouldn't want to start taking all of the extensions from our extension developers, because that's how they're making their living, and saying, hey, we like that. We're putting in the core. It's open source. Thank you very much. But when I talked about this with someone, one of the points about adding things to the core is that once it's in the core, it's got to be maintained.
Yeah.
And so if Better Trash, if just that we're talking about, were to be added, then someone else would have to, if in new versions or things change, someone else has to maintain it. So by keeping the core smaller, then it's easier or quicker to make changes to the core. But having said that, there's always things that get added to the core, and I think it's great to have a wish list, and to have a tool that would just reset all the counters on all articles would be cool. I know there's a plugin in Joomla 3, and like you said, there's a plugin, so maybe there's for 4, but that's cool. What else would you like to see?
There was a plugin called Boy Generator.
Oh, okay.
You remember that? So when you go to and you view the source code, it says generator Joomla da. And obviously one of the things I do is I try and strip that out. And I used to download Boy Generator. It was free. You put it in and you just change it to the title of the business or whatever the website is on. Yeah. Now that Boy Generator is not available for Joomla 4. And although I did a tutorial on how to remove it manually in the index.php file, the problem is that method is only temporary, because when you upgrade the template, because I don't just use Joomla, I use Gantry 5, which is a framework. Yep. So what we have, there's different frameworks out there. Obviously, there's T4, there's Helix, Gantry 5. And for some reason, I got attracted to Gantry 5 and what I could do. And I don't know. Do you use Gantry 5, or have you used Gantry 5?
I have used Gantry 5. Yes.
Yeah. Because it's a lot of the time Joomla core, when you get it, and if you get templates for it, that's great, but you're very limited. You're kind of preset module positions really with the template, where Gantry allows you to put everything wherever you want it. And that's what I liked about it. If you want to have 2 columns and then the content screen to the right, you can have it. You can switch it over to the left. You can have one. You can, whatever you want to do, you can do with Gantry, with the framework. And Helix and T4 is the same. So I like the idea, the flexibility that I can come up with a design, because obviously when you're designing a website, the last thing you do is sit in front of the computer. You need a piece of paper and a pen, and you draw it out, and then You go in and do your design. But how many times have we just sat down and start designing? So we're all guilty of that.
I hate paper. I just go on and start doing it.
well, we're all guilty of that. But that's ideally designers will say you need a piece of paper and pen. But I liked, so I use Gantry 5 and now Joomla 4 to design the sites and then have a play around with that. But I would be interested to find out how good you could design a website with just the core, nothing else, just the core Joomla, and see how good you could get with it. Because there is a lot of functionality in Joomla in the core.
Yeah. No, and more than ever, the core things are there in Joomla. So I think I think you could design quite an amazing site, build quite an amazing site using only core things. I think probably the biggest challenge for someone new to try to do that, and that's always my perspective on it, is how to make changes to the template and the appearance of the template. Yeah. So Mark DeChevre has, and also Elise Fultine have done presentations for the New Jersey Joomla user group that on Cassiopeia, which is the default template for Joomla 4, and they've showed tons of crazy things that you can do. And so I think you can, and Cassiopeia is really fast. So there's a lot of people now, a lot of I was going to say big Joomla people, but the people that are very active that you see in forums and the people that are running Joomla user groups. I'm trying to remember Laura's last name. She runs the Joomla user group in New Jersey, and I know it. I've met her, and it's just totally escaping me now. But that are trying. They're saying, "Hey, Cassiopeia is all that you need. Here's what you can do," and they're doing a lot of that work. That appeals to me because it's. I think, as far as sitting down and designing a website, I get you want to have a certain look, but there's so many devices now. It almost doesn't even matter if you have a look because you just want it to be readable. Desktop, yes, but once you get down to a mobile phone, colors is fine, it's on brand, but it doesn't matter whether you have a left column or a right column when it comes to mobile, because people are just looking at it, and that's more than half. So the look is less and less, but I get that the desktop should be attractive and appealing, and that. But so there's lots that you can do with Cassiopeia, but you have to be able to delve into, customizing CSS. If you're going to do overrides, if you want to add columns or just some things. So those videos are really great. I just think, the person that, one of the users I often think of, and they sometimes contact me, is, hey, the guy who took care of our company's website, our business's website, no longer works here. So my boss said, no, I'm in charge of it. I have no idea what to do here. Right. That's not the person that's going to, they're not getting paid to do it. They don't know how to do it. If I say to them, well, actually, if you want to make that change, just make a layout override, and sometimes you see, that's the help that's offered. Someone says in the Facebook group, hey, I need to add I don't want this to appear. And they say, well, just make a layout override. And I'm like, that poor person is waiting for 5 o'clock so they can go home and do something they want. And their boss won't even let them buy a simple plugin to do something, and you're telling them to make a layout override. So in that sense, with Joomla 4, in any case with any Joomla version, you're limited to what you can do with the core template based on your ability and resources and time and interest to make changes, which is why there's templates in that. But I think you make Joomla 4 is powerful. There's tons of, between custom fields and overrides and just the stuff that's in the core now. You remember the days where you could barely have a blog on Joomla. I mean, that was a blog in the sense that it was very hard to just add stuff every day. Whereas, and that I think that's partly why WordPress grew so much, because people were like, hey, they would just they found it easy just to add pages, and that was great. And they were fine with the layout. They didn't even care whether they owned a domain or not at that point. They were happy with it. .wordpress, something.wordpress.com. And I would tell people, I'd say, oh yeah, I build websites in Joomla, and they would say, oh, but can you have a blog with Joomla? And I'd say, a blog is just a web blog, so in Joomla, you just add your contents, articles. Yeah, that's what you've got. But could you add it to, could you put something on and put it in multiple categories? Could you, a whole bunch of other things that you couldn't. And so we saw things like K2 and that come up, which were almost like a CMS inside of a CMS.
Yeah.
So you could have that functionality. All that stuff's in Joomla 4 now. Like that. Yeah. So, So yes, you can build a great site with the core in Joomla 4 if you want to.
Well, you mentioned something there which is important, and something we need to talk about when it comes to web design is the skill set, because we tend to be jack of all trades, because some people are very good at what I would call coders. And when you see certain websites, they're brilliant when it comes to coding, but they don't understand the aesthetics of a website. They don't understand the layout. They don't understand the consistency of colors and all that kind of stuff. And as kind of web designers, we have to be a jack of all trades and have a bit of knowledge of each part, be a web designer, be a bit of a coder, formatting, the design of it, the flow of it, and the content as well, because you can have a very pretty website, but if your content is rubbish, people aren't going to come back. So I always kind of say content is king. But it has to flow. And for me, again, the principle of keep it simple, stupid has to apply. Navigation, I'm a typical IT guy. If I buy something and I need to look at the manual, then that thing is too complicated. Well, you should be able to take it out of the box and at least get the basics of using a device before you resort to picking up the manual. And I think if you go to a website, then principles should be the same. It should be self-intuitive. You should be able to go and follow the flow and understand where things are quite quickly. And if people are getting lost on your website, then you need to rethink it. And I think when it comes to dealing with customers, they don't realize the kind of thought process that goes through, that we have to go through in designing a website. It's not just a case of sitting down and there you go, I've installed it and chucked a few things on and pay me. We have to go through a thought process and think of the design. Just recently, I'm in a group of people, and they needed a website obviously set up, and I just had the Cassiopeia one up there with a few bits of information, and I said, can you give me a few ideas what you want to see? Because I wanted them to have an input in what I designed. And they sent over a few websites, but they sent over, one was a shopping cart, and this website is only going to be an information website. It's not going to be a shopping cart, so that was pointless. And then there was another website that he sent over, and that was pointless, and an estate agent or something. And so I said, right, okay, I'm just going to go in.
It's your fault for asking.
Yeah, I know. You're right. I walked into that one, right? So I said, right, so that I'm just going to go in and I'm going to build it myself. Now I use, I've signed up to Inspire Theme. I don't know whether you know Inspire Theme.
I've heard of them, yeah.
And they do particles as well as templates. And it's quite reasonable for 3 months, €59. And you have access to all the particles, all the templates. You could download them all, and then after 3 months, you have them all in your system.
And particles is a gantry thing.
Yeah, particles is a gantry thing. It's just a code that makes the text or does something funky on the website. Yeah. And there's particles and atoms which you can download. And there's WordPress and Gantry and Grav is another one. Yeah. But yeah, I just think that, people probably underestimate the amount of work we do, because even when a customer comes to you and says, right, Tim, we need a website. Your first process will be, okay, after you think about the design process, and then you start getting into the mechanics of setting up the website, you have all that background stuff to do, installing the plugins. That could be backup software, could be module manager. I don't know whether they've released that on Joomla 4 yet, but whatever plugins you need to do, you need to install what needs to be done. And that's just the engine room before you even get into the cosmetics of how it works.
Yeah. And then you have to get the content from them too.
Oh yeah. And isn't it funny that when you go to the customer and say, well, I need your content, and they go, oh, can you just not put something up? And I say, well, I don't know your business. You know your business. I don't know your business.
It's the pain point. I had a client once. I asked them over and over and over again for their content. It was an insurance company or whatever like that. Just a mom and son had an insurance office or whatever like that. And then finally one day he called me and he was complaining about, there's something that he was complaining about. And then he made the point, he says, the site's not even done yet. And I was like, dude, I've asked 4 times for the content. I mean, it's like, build me a house and we'll supply the wood. Okay, where's the wood? Why haven't you built the house yet? Please, you said you can supply the wood. So yeah,
I think putting down, if you're dealing with a customer, putting down exactly what they're going to get, which is what I used to do. Yeah. And then when they say I want a quote, I'd put everything down, and then the additional stuff like the admins and maintenance and stuff like that. And tutorials. If they wanted the tutorial done, or do you want the teaching done? Teaching on top is extra. Yeah. And they don't realize this, so.
And I've started, I have really well prepared presentations or proposals that I give them that outlines a lot of things. And I bought a deal off of AppSumo. It was like a paid one-time price for all to use this software. And that's actually saved my bacon a couple of times, even in the last 12 months where people said, well, but what about this? It's like, well, look, there's the proposal you took to your committee. Here's the email that said, yes, that's good. Go ahead. That's exactly what was wanted. I think one of the things too, though, and we're talking about, when you mentioned about being aware of the people's ability and to use the site and do things on it. It's interesting. I find it interesting in Joomla because there's some in our community that are very purist about how, for instance, let's take page builders. So you use Gantry. I was using Asteroid up until the Joom Dev stopped using it, stopped developing it. Someone has picked it up. I'm going to use something else. But I've just decided to use something else. But it's like, page builders to just make your page slow. So, you shouldn't use the page builder this, and they'll post speed tests of sites they found and different things like that. But they're the same people that complain that some of them are the same people that complain there's the Joomla user base is not growing. And some of them sell extensions. So like they're trying to sell extensions. Well, who's the most elite of the programmers in Joomla, they're okay. You could, you could sell your extension to them, but what you're going to sell an extension to 30 people. If the number's that high, if you're going to make a living making extensions, you have to make stuff for everyday people to help them to do things. And if you're going to sell stuff to everyday people to help them use it, you better have something that everyday people can use. And so when an everyday person sits down and says, okay, I'm going to build my site. Hey, I heard that. Hey, I heard this guy in Canada and this guy in Ireland talk about how great Joomla is. So I'm going to try to build it in Joomla. And, but I want it to look a certain way. How do I change this layout? How do I add this? How do I put a video? And they can take years to study that, or they can buy a thing that just lets them drag a box in and make it. Is it going to be the fastest the page is? Something with lighter code is going to be faster. But does the dry cleaners down the road need to have the fastest dry cleaner web page in the whole world? No, they need something so their clients can go and see what their hours are to see whether they're open to pick up their clothes or not. And the dry cleaner down the road, who has someone who's maybe trying to build his own site or wants to work on a site, he just wants to make a new page about sales and drag down a box and put in an image that shows that he got from his graphics guy, and that works for him. The more people that are able to do that, the more users of Joomla there will be, which will means there'll be more people developing things to sell to those users, and it's going to grow. So at some point there's the purest way to do Joomla, but there also has to be an easier, I use the term impure. There has to be an easier way. There has to be an easier way for people, for everyday people to use it. Otherwise, what will they do? They'll go.
Yeah, look, I totally agree. There's always going to be, wherever industry you're in, there's always going to be purists, and that's their beef. And, 30% of them will be purists, and, the 60% will be, or we'll say 70% will be everybody else. But I think, the whole idea of the speed of the website, I remember the dial-up days. And I remember, waiting for an image to download, and bit by bit, you'd see the line coming down. I remember them days. These days we have fiber, we have broadband, everything's a lot faster. And it's like these people giving out, I want 5G because I want my video down 2 seconds faster. Seriously, that, and you're right. If the dry cleaners down the road want a website, they're not going to be worrying if it's a few seconds, if it's loading a few seconds longer than somebody else that doesn't have some kind of framework on the website. And if your dry cleaning customer comes to you and goes, yeah, somebody said to me about my website's loading a bit slower, and go, well, yeah, I can make it faster for you, but it's going to cost you. Yeah. They'll just turn around and then walk away.
Well, the other thing too is, you can really set things up or do something so that the Joomla site is running slow, but hosting is a big thing too, right? So if I would look at hosting. No one wants even the dry cleaner's page should not load in 2 seconds. But if you have a YouTube video on there and he's accidentally uploaded his 2 megabyte picture, and that's what's always downloading every time, sure, it's going to be slow, and you can speed it up. But oftentimes it's hosting. So it's easy to have. It's easy to have a page that's going to load very, very quickly. It won't be the fastest in the world. Like, it won't be like 0.3 seconds or whatever, like some, but it shouldn't be 2 seconds, but
it shouldn't take that long. But you know what one thing you need to look at is a thing called the hop count. Have you come across that?
The what?
The hop count. The hop count.
Refresh. No, it doesn't.
Okay. I'll give you an example. When I was in my IT world, I was over in the office in Italy, and I noticed that their internet was very slow, and they needed to access one of the main systems in head office, which is in London, and things were very slow. So I said, okay, I'm going to do a trace route and do a hop count. And depending on the ISP and the routing, because in Europe, you have a thing called EBON, which is the main backbone, and then main telecom people are connected to that. So you have tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. And depending on which ISP you sign up to will depend on what part of that chain they're in. So the hop count is how many hops, how many servers does it have to go through to get to where you need to go? So I noticed that in the office in Italy, it was the hop count, but I went over to America, wherever way they did it. I went over to the States and back to London. It was like 24 hops or something to get to it. So we actually changed the ISP, and then we did a hop count check, and it was 10.
Okay.
So by just purely changing and doing a hop count check to see where you're getting. So if these people are doing speed checks, where are they doing it from?
Yeah.
And ask them to do a hop count check to see.
Yeah. That's another good point. Yeah. If you're on not one of the big hosts. Yeah, it might just be coming from far away. I know the one server that I have, because I offer hosting to my clients. I don't compete for hosting because the big guys out there are, in order to compete with them on price, I'd have to sacrifice the support, right? Because, I mean, if you've got, well, we know what the support's like with a lot of the big companies. So I just don't try to compete on, but I do offer it for my clients, and on my server, I don't throttle. Having said that, like, so let's say I have, let's say if I have 8 CPU on a server, and I think I've got 16 on mine, I forget exactly. I set it so that the accounts can use up to 4, right? I mean, 4 CPUs for the dry cleaner, right? And that's right, because my sites are on there. I like them to be fast. I don't want my clients calling me saying, "Hey, seems kind of slow," and I say to them, "Well, for an extra $10 a month, I'll let you use twice as much memory on the server." Like, I just want them to be happy.
Yeah.
And they pay to be happy, because I don't have a small hosting thing. A lot of times I throw it in with my monthly management packages. So, oh my goodness, where was I going with that?
Well, keep the customer happy with the bandwidth throttling. I mean, again, what I do, and you probably, I don't know whether you do the same thing, but like my internet provider now, where I am, the company I use, there's only 10 people in it. And if I have a problem, I can email the CEO. Yeah. Now, if you go with the big guys over here, it's EIR, they're the main telecoms provider, and they own the landlines and everything else. But if you go with them, you're lost in the call center. Mm-hmm. So there is a bit of for me, it's good to deal with a smaller company who can give me a better service. Or at least I can ring up and have a human being on the end of the line, especially with tech support. When it comes to on my hosting provider now, they have a tech support. You ring up and you can speak to a human being, and they'll be able to help you. And that nowadays is gold dust.
Yeah, and so it came back to what I was going to say, because my server is with a company, Liquid Web, and they're in the States, and they're great. Within 59 seconds, they'll answer the phone call or a chat. And they've been really good. But as far as having clients and the sites being accessed, they're in the States, and maybe something closer might be good for another client, so that things are faster. But then that's what a CDN is for too, to serve up things. And like you said, connections are so fast now. Stuff coming, it's super, super fast.
I think the kind of business and the websites that we would do, it'd be the local business, the SMEs, the small businesses. You're not going to go into big companies and pitch a website. They would just go to the web company down the road that has 10 people working for them. So I think, and we would be mad probably to take on such a project anyway, as individuals or even 2 people. Because a lot of these smaller SME web companies that have 10 people have graphic designers, they have programmers, they have web developers, they have database guys, and they can afford to do all that, and they go for the big bucks. Yeah. And where we have to be kind of a jack of all trades in what we do. But we learn a lot that way as well. We just have to be, for anybody who wants to do web design, all I'd say is make sure you use multiple caps. Be the designer, understand a bit about database, understand a bit about coding, CSS, and try and find out where you can get help as well, because you won't know everything and you will be frustrated. Yeah. And that's the important bit. And as I say, going back to what we said at the start, people like yourself, Tim, doing tutorials, helping people out is a godsend. It really is. It does help a lot of people.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff online, and I'm forever going online looking for stuff. And I have people that I call up when I need help. Like, it's like, hey, I'm just stuck. What will you look at this? And I mean, that's just the nature of nobody can be good at all tech. Yeah. You just have to be good at what it is that you need to be good at. And I think the great thing about Joomla is that with the components and extensions, with extensions and that, you don't have to be good at everything. So you want a calendar, all you have to be good at is reading labels and drop downs and settings. If it's a really good extension, like, or even creating forms, like convert forms that Tassos does. Man, I just have so much respect for him as a developer because he really has made something that's so user friendly. I can make forms with his form builder that make it look like I know what I'm doing.
Listen, I agree. I've actually signed up for Tassos for convert forms, and I keep telling them how good his product is. Yes. I mean, it really is a great product, and I compliment them on that. And I do send him the odd email every now and again. I've actually signed up to his Facebook not fan page, but his Facebook page.
He's got a VIP page, right?
That's right. Yeah, I've signed up to the VIP page. Because that convert forms is very good, and there are a lot of products out there and people providing. Yes, I know, depending on the money, whether you have the money to afford to buy the plugins or whether you want them free, it is a trade-off. It really is a trade-off. But I can definitely say, by paying a few quid, because it's not that expensive. I mean, Tassos, I think, only charges 29 quid and you get 5 user licenses.
Yeah, no, I like paying for extensions because they've got the features that I want. When there's a pro version that's got features that I want, because it saves me time. Also, too, the wonderful thing about open source is that you can then use it on other projects. I talked with Yannick Gauthier. He's Weebler. Had breakfast with him at a thing. And I said to him, look, tell me how this open source stuff works. I said, because I buy a license from you and I can use it on all the sites of my developers. And not all of my developers, all of the sites that I'm developing. And I said, am I allowed to say to people, hey, hire me to manage your sites because I have these memberships that allow me to? Is that right or not? And he said that, under the terms of open source, you're allowed to do that. I mean, you're actually allowed to sell this stuff, or put it on a CD. Well, you wouldn't put it on a CD, of course, but so but there's what's permissible, but then there's also really what is moral or kind, because those people are making their living from things. They're very skilled, and they should be paid for things, and it's not wrong. They're not doing anything wrong, making these features and making a living from things. So with Tassos, what he charges is not very much in the big scheme of things for what it's worth, and for anyone that's building sites to be able to put them on other sites. It's it's really, really good. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think his business model of charging a fee is better than what they're trying to do now, is get everybody having a perpetual license where you charge monthly. I like the idea, maybe I'm old fashioned, but I like the idea that I buy it and that's it. I don't really want to be paying a perpetual fee. And Tassos also has done a great thing where you have the basic version of convert forms, and when you use it and you realize how good it is, you go, hey, I want to buy the full one because this is really good. And that model definitely works. And it gives people a tester without them forking out money at the start. Now, the one thing I'm concerned about in the industry is that they are pushing for this perpetual licensing thing, which I don't like. Maybe I'm just old-fashioned, but...
You mean like the SaaS, software as a service?
Well, like maybe, say, for example, Tassos, instead of him charging 29 quid for 5 licenses, he will charge you, $10 a month for you to keep on using it. I'm not kind of into that,
Yeah, I remember when Office 365, when Microsoft Office was going to that, and I was like, "Wait, you're going to pay money every month just to use Office? That's stupid. Who's there going to do that?" But then it turned out to be cheaper than updating every 4 years with the $600 CD, and you always have the latest stuff. And But I do find in my business, I see something, oh, I'd like to have that. It's how much? Oh, it's only $5 a month. Oh, that would be great to have access. And I realize like, oh, I'm going to sass myself to death here to bankruptcy. There's so many stuff.
But this is it. Well, what are the tips that we can pass on for the years that we've done with Joomla for new people that want to get into Joomla? They're watching this video and they're saying, maybe I should test Joomla, because the one thing that we haven't really talked, this is the first time we really talked, but isn't it just very coincidental that, there's things that you're using that I'm also using, like Tassos, for example, with Convert Forms. We're both obviously into Joomla, and also you are a My Sites Guru person, so am I.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I have my sites in My Sites Guru for, auditing and scanning, for updating everything else. And that's been pretty good. And I'm sure if you went through our list of things, we'd probably have so many things that we use. I mean, there's default things that you'll always load up, I think. JCE editor, Acrobat backup, and there's probably, I don't know, probably a few other things you can probably think of that.
Yeah, well, regular lab stuff.
Modular Manager, when it comes out in J4, I'll be definitely
Peter's just about got it released. He's got stuff. He's got it out for testing. He's doing something entirely different. And is it Advanced Module Manager? Instead of he's got something called Conditions. But yeah, so there's stuff from regular labs. I mean, I don't want to hurt anybody that I use and by not mentioning them. I really like the Weebler stuff for SEO. That is really great. Web 357 has really nice stuff. The Web 357 has login as user. That's an incredible thing. You can, when you have someone using your website and they say, I can't see the link, and you're like, oh, what do they see? Because, it almost seems like the first step for a lot of people in tech support is to figure out why what the other person did wrong when they asked for help. And so I often think like, oh man, what am I missing? Or is it, I don't know. So login as user is really nice. You just log in the back end, click on the user, and then you see the front end as they see it. So that is really great. You mentioned Akib. I like, so you're using Gantry. I'm going to start using a CK template creator. I haven't really mentioned much about it on the channel. I mentioned on my live stream the other day, but it was so late in the live stream, probably nobody heard. But I really like it. I'm going to start using it as my go-to page builder. I want to do things in the core with Cassiopeia, but I think this is going to be really great for building templates. What else?
I think it'd be easier for you. I mean, with Gantry now, it has its fair share of problems, trying to work things out, get your head around it. And I did the tutorial to try and help people out with that. But when you kind of get your head around it, then it flows a lot better. The one thing that frustrates me is there's still a certain amount of extensions that I would love to see, but are not on and I'd pay for them if they were there, but they're not on the extensions list. Or that there might be one or two. I mean, one of the things is a dating component for setting up a dating website. There's a lady I know that's speaking to me about it, and she asked me about it, and I said, well, I'll have a look and see what's there. But there's one company that has a dating site, and I emailed them to get more information off them, and they never got back to me. And so I just thought, it doesn't fit well, and and there's another time banking systems. That's another query that I had. There's no time banking systems on there. So I could probably come up with a list of 10 extensions that could be on Joomla that a developer could develop and sell.
Yeah. But you're looking at entire systems. So like in one sense, an extension being like a calendar, but you're looking for something that would have like in the case of a dating system, uh, you know, chat, uh, um, maybe a swiping feature for left and right, an algorithm that matches up likes, like cat lover versus dog lover, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And those are pretty, uh, those are pretty detailed. So to put, like for instance, there's property booking extensions that will handle all of that, but there's a lot of property booking things. A lot of companies that would want to manage rooms or cabins or even rental cars or booking things. So there's probably more money in that. Some of those thinner verticals are probably a little bit harder, which is probably why you didn't hear back from that extension developer, because they're making their money somewhere else. Hey, I got to tell you something funny. I had a guy contact me. He had a really great idea for an app, and I said, "Oh yeah, what's that?" And he says, "I would like an app that when you're on one of those dating apps, that a picture comes up that an algorithm removed the makeup and made the person look like they do really like they really do without makeup." And first of all, I mean, I was thinking like, oh my goodness, all right. So there's some some different issues at work here, but I said, okay, well, I got a guy that I go to for app development. So I talked to him and he says, oh, okay, wow. He says, yeah, I guess it could be done. And he says, but even just to start, there's just everything that we need. He said something like $30,000 or something like that just to develop everything. So I got back to the guy, and so instead of talking to him about why I thought it was not the best idea, and I was quite questionable about really the purpose of it, the shallowness of it, I said to him, yeah, just to start, it's going to like take $10,000-$15,000 just to start working on it. And he says, oh, okay. And that was the end of this good idea. So.
Again, it's down to budget. I mean, I have done a basic app. I've done basic apps using App Inventor.
Okay.
And I mean, very, very basic apps. I haven't done the iOS because Apple wants you to pay $100 or €100 a development fee before you even go there, and I'm just not prepared to do that. So if I did an app, I'm involved with what's called a local men's shed. Mm-hmm. And it's a community group that we get together and we make stuff and help the local community. And so I designed a little app for them. So if people wanted to go to a YouTube channel or Facebook or send us an email and stuff. So just a basic app, but it's amazing when non-technical people look at it and they think you're some kind of programming god, not realizing how kind of easy it is to put it together, but to them, like, it's, oh, wow, you designed an app, but now that would be good. That's the other thing about, obviously the mobile version of Joomla, and making sure that when you're designing the website that it looks good on the mobile side. But what if, and I was thinking about this the other day, because when we said we'd hook up and have a chat, is there any building software that you know of? What if Tim comes along and goes, I'm going to design this website, and you design this lovely template, and you go, you know what? I want to use that for another website. I want to export that and then install it in to another website. I don't know if there's any page builders which will allow you to do that after you've designed it.
Yeah, so CK Template Builder will do that.
Oh, okay.
As I've seen, yeah. Yeah, it's really impressive. And looking at it, listen, that's one of the when Asteroid, you could do that as well. You would export a JSON and then you would import it into the framework in another site, and you would get all of the settings for that. Of course, the modules weren't there, but you'd have module positions and stuff. So yeah, you can do that, and really nicely you could. And this is a suggestion I had for. I thought about buying Asteroid. I'm really good friends with the owner of Joomla Iv, that's Chaitan Madan, and we had done a podcast together, and we talk regularly, just in, I was going to say in real life, just just about life. We connect regularly. He's in India, I'm here in Canada, but yeah, so we're really close friends. And so one of I could not figure out how to make money off of it, off of the free version of Asteroid. I didn't want to get, as far as the template club went and having templates, I didn't want to, it was so much support and I just couldn't see how I couldn't make all the pieces work together. So I decided not to. And maybe that's why Joomla stopped working on that. But one of my ideas was that with the ability to export templates, you could have a community where people were exporting just the information, exporting the templates that they had made. Yeah, here's a template I made for this, or here's these colors. You want to use it, you just download this file, insert it, and it's all there. So so a similar thing would be possible with CK Template Builder, but you can export the template and then you can import it into another site. So you could have a collection of your favorites or share them. So that's possible with that. And I wonder, I haven't done much with SP Page Builder, which that's Helix, right? Are they Helix people?
Is that not something different? Is SP Page Builder? I thought Helix was a different framework.
Joomla isn't SP Page Builder. I'm not sure, but I think that they might have that as well. But I know
I'll have to look it up in Gantry. I'll have to look it up to see. I mean, it's something I thought about, but I've never actually had a look to see if it was possible.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and that's really nice to be able to just export that and to another project if you're doing it just to start out as a base. I don't have one for Joomla 4, but in Joomla 3, I had what I call the core basic install, and where I had the Joomla with all of the things I like to use already installed. And then when I start a new project, I just take a copy of that and start with it, because otherwise you're spending you're installing Akiba and you do the settings and you install this and that, and you're spending all your time doing that, which is great. And there's value in that, but it also gets a little monotonous after a while, right? So.
Yeah, no, totally. I remember a program I bought years ago called Artiseer. Do you remember that? Yeah. It was, and you could actually design Joomla on WordPress and a few other templates. And I never really got in. I did buy a copy of it and I played around with it, but I just didn't feel it bolted in right with Joomla for some reason. And that's why I never kind of pursued it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's so many things out there. And, the amazing thing about Joomla is that you can make money off of it. Now, whether you're going to do it full time or whether you want to do it just part time. And what I've said on my channel, people, is don't be afraid to try. Just, if you know how to do something, just offer to do it. If someone says to you, I have my business and I want people to be able to rent cars and book them for vacations. All right. So maybe that's not up to your skill level. But if you've got a club or know if someone has a club and they say, I need to post information about our baseball games and when practices are, I just need that. And you know how to do that. Say, hey, I could do that for you. You do it for fun or for free, or you can say, yeah, listen, you need some hosting and, just whatever your skill level is, and begin and be doing that. So these things like Artiseer and all these, different frameworks and different page builders and that, they're people that are looking at Joomla and saying, hey, this I can think of a demographic or a group of people that would be helped if they could do it this way. I'm going to build it so they can do it that way and make a living off of it. And that will be great. And I'll be helping people. And sure enough, you'll find a lot of people that are like, oh yeah, that makes sense to me. There's some Joomla stuff I just think, oh my goodness, that's not for me. How do you do that? But there's people that absolutely love it. And once you get to know something, you're comfortable with it, it becomes a powerful tool for you. And so I guess, and I think too, you were talking about hints and tips. One of the great things about web pages is that they're like photography. Photography is something that goes along great with another hobby, you
Mm.
know? So I belonged to Model Railroad Club when I was in Toronto years ago. I still like trains. There's barely anything on my island, so I let it die off. But you know, you like trains, take pictures of them. You
Mm.
like dogs, take pictures of them. You like old barns in the field, take pictures of them. If you like something that's, you know, small in the world, get a macro lens, take pictures of it. Same thing for a web page. You want to learn how to make web pages? Make a web page about something that you like, and
Mm.
you'll figure it out. It's like, hey, I got this picture of a train. Oh, I want to have it in the header. How do I do that? Well, I don't know. You start looking, you start asking for help, you figure it out. It's like, hey, that's great. I have a picture there. Someone else come along and think like, oh, what's up with that site? It's all right. You're building, you're learning it. And if you find somebody who just needs a page to have a picture at the top and to put some schedule on, give it a try, and you'll learn stuff. And man, again, if you make $1 a day or $30 a month, you get a free pizza. Why not? That's
Exactly. Well, I have a question that your client, definitely I got asked this before in the past, and I'm sure you have. And they say, Tim, I want a website. Now, how can you guarantee I get on the first page on Google? I've had that. I've had this conversation with a customer, and I generally say to them that the people who tell you they can do that are probably going to lie to you, because the algorithm that Google use, they keep it close to the chest. And yes, there are certain things that you could do, and there was tricks that you could do years ago, embedding code in the actual HTML document, hidden code, and all that kind of stuff.
no.
But they're all kind of savvy to that now. Now, the other thing that I'm noticing as well is, I think the world and his wife has just completed an SEO training course, because the amount of emails that I get in going, we went over to your website and we found one or two things, and da, 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 da. So everybody seems to be doing some SEO training course in the world, and then you get loads of emails coming in. So there's two issues, obviously, because again, the customer will say, because they have to understand that they have a business. They have to do PR and marketing to advertise the business. They sometimes think that, when you put the website up, the world's going to come to your website and see you. And you think, no, that's SEO and marketing and PR, and that's another, that's going to cost you X. And there's no guarantee that you're going to get on the front page of Google.
Anybody can be on the front page of Google, #1 top result, if they pay for it.
Yeah, yeah.
Google AdWords. So you got, years ago, the keyword for mesothelioma lawyer, so that's the asbestos cancer, lawyers were bidding $54 per click to be at the top of the search results. So if I Googled mesothelioma lawyer, obviously I'm looking for a lawyer because to deal with something to do with a cancer related to asbestos. They were saying to Google, I'll pay you $54 if someone clicks on my ad.
Mm.
Because if they got a client and it went full suit, they're making hundreds of thousands of dollars in fees just from the settlement from their share of it. Mm. So if you want to be the number, we use it. I used to work at a dry cleaners when I was in high school, so we'll use it. If you want to be the #1 if you want to appear at the top of the search for dry cleaner everywhere in the world, all you have to do is have a lot of money, bid more than anyone else all day long, and you'll always be there. Now, fortunately, if you want to be #1 when someone clicks on dry cleaner in your community, then the competition is lower. So anyone who says, can you guarantee you'll be #1, is basically, yes. How much money do you have? Then it's like, okay, being realistic. Because the other thing is, you say, every real estate agent in my town wants to be #1, right? So, and anyone that says, oh, we'll guarantee you'll be #1, it's either going to cost you or they're lying. And and we don't live in a world where you can be #1 all the time. So.
Exactly. But using your dry cleaner example, you know, if they say, well, look, I want to be high up in the rankings and stuff like that, and you think, okay, well, let's examine this. You want to spend money to be high up in the rankings. So let's say people type in dry cleaner and somebody finds you and they're 100 miles away. Do you think they're going to drive 100 miles to get the dry cleaning done? So it's a kind of a waste of money. We need to look at niche markets, especially in the local community, and who's going to be driving to your business in the local community. So, and that's what being realistic, that's what the businesses have to do. They have to think about that people are not going to drive miles to them if somebody else is closer.
Now, what was the other thing so that you asked, they say, how can it be number one in Google? And what was the other thing that you mentioned?
They want to be number one, the algorithm. Google have kept it quite secret as to how the algorithm works.
Yeah, no, I will say this too, because this is, but if you want to be number one in the results or improve better for that, in the organic results are free, you've got to do video. So I have a friend, site we've been working on for a long time, his business, he does driver training tutorials. Years and years and years ago, I had this club at the church where people would come and just work on their web pages, and I'd help them. And anyways, he showed up, and I said to him, I said, you know what? Because he was doing driver training tests on his website. I said, you know what? You should start a YouTube channel where you teach driving lessons and do things like that. It would be great. People will watch. And he kind of thought it was like, and we're talking less, I don't know, it was 12, 15 years ago. Was it 12, 15? Anyways, it was at least a decade ago. And it was sort of like, oh, really? I said, trust me, people will do it. So he did it. He now has he has 275,000 subscribers to his channel. And it's his business. He's making his living from it. So the other day I was showing someone around Google Analytics, showing my new employee around Google Analytics. And I went to my friend's site and I said, look, it shows what the number one, it shows your it was a Google Search Console at this point. It shows the results. It shows what people search for. So I took this one term, which was emergency stop driving test or something, some phrase that people were searching for. And I put it into Google. And even though it showed that his page was, his average ranking on the page was 6th. So there'd be 5 results ahead of him for web pages. When I put that in, before they showed pages, they showed videos. And he was the number one video at the top. There's 4 other videos. There were other driving websites, other driving videos for other site channels, but he was at the top. And so even though it showed that for that search term, he was 6th position in the free results, he was at the top of that page. Yeah. And so if you do video on a topic or talking about it, then you, because the number one, number 2 search engine goes back and forth probably is YouTube. So yeah, so if people really, and I lose a lot of people at this point because they're like, oh, video, how would I do that? Or I don't like the way I look on video, or I would be too embarrassed or whatever. So you can tell how much they really want to be number one, because when you can say, I guarantee you'll do really well if you just start making videos and get them up there. They're like, I lose a lot of people at that point. So there's people that, you know, you want to be number one. You want to do really well in search results. It's going to, it takes effort. It used to be, you know, if you had a web page, you were like miles ahead of everyone else. Now it takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of work to be competitive.
It's definitely gone up. The amount of work now that you have to do to get that presence and get yourself out there. Videos, I totally agree. The one thing about, again, pushing videos. Now, I do the odd video on my page, and it's a mixture of things, not just Joomla. Mm-hmm. And but I'm not into going onto YouTube and trying to get 300,000 subscribers, and I'm not really bothered about that. I do it for a bit of fun, and I put the odd tutorial up. But what I do find, as I say, I'm a qualified IT trainer, so I like I don't have my face on camera. I just do the screen capture, and I talk when I'm doing it, and you do this and you do this and you do this. And that's just how I do it. But it's one of my pet hates when you get somebody doing a tutorial and it's just complete silence, and you just see the mouse going around with some text, or they play this terrible music in the background.
Grunge music's just slamming. It's not relaxing at all. Yeah.
Oh God, it just drives me nuts. And I really have, unless I really, really have to watch it because I need something, I'll switch off and try and find another video because I don't know why people do it. I really don't know why people do it. And there's some professionals, companies out there who actually do it with no audio. And you think, why can't you just talk or get somebody that can talk? Why is there a problem with you talking and explaining what you're doing?
Yeah. I mean, the big companies, I don't know. It's interesting because there are big companies with small websites and there are small companies with big websites. So that's the great thing about it. You can create an impression and a brand. And so there's that. So I think there's some big companies that probably just say we need videos and they just want it and it's new, and that's where they are in their corporate culture. And it's not like, hey, let's set aside $5,000 to get like you've got your pop filter there in front of your microphone. You've got a really professional setup. You've got great audio. Your videos are really, really nice. You sent me a couple of links to them. And so the videos you've done was like really, really, it's really good job. And Cheers. So in order for a company to do that, they've got to experiment with that. They've got to give employees time to do it, or else they have to hire someone else. I think too, because those videos do drive me crazy when the music, or you're just trying to follow a mouse and they shake a mouse and show. It might be this might be someone who's just starting out. I also think it's probably in some cases people whose language their first language is not English, or maybe they don't speak English, and so they're putting something out there. I've found people that speak a little bit of English, you'll see it in a forum. They start out saying, first of all, I don't speak English very well, so please forgive my bad English. And then they type what they're looking for. There's this feeling that unless you're a fluent English speaker, you shouldn't be trying to speak English, or people are going to come down on you. So I think they don't even try. So I think, if you have the ability to, or you have the resources, you actually see a lot of AI voice stuff now too. And you'll start to, and some of it's, I know it's a computer, and it's just reading something that was written, but it's passable. I'd rather have that than acid rock music blaring while I'm trying to follow a mouse. But
definitely, because it's counterproductive, because I know they're trying to do the tutorial to educate people, which is great, and maybe they want to make a business out of it. But even if English is not the first language, at least if they try and talk through it, it has to be better than playing the music or just dead quiet. Because there's certain nuances that you'll pick up when people are talking with a tutorial that you don't get when it's just completely quiet and you're typing.
Yeah, and I think there's one large Joomla extension that I use, I contacted. That's not one that we've mentioned even yet, but I contacted them. I said, "Hey, would you like some video tutorials on how to do things on your extension?" It's an expensive extension, so I was thinking about maybe working out a deal or something like that. I'm happy to do tutorials for extensions and I have a price in mind too, but I'll work off the price of a membership. That's fine to do it. And they really don't have any video tutorials. They have something on a YouTube channel that's a few years old, so it's not relevant at all. And they replied and they said, "Oh, we have someone in-house that's making videos." So I thought, okay, well, you don't.
Yeah.
but that's okay. My job here is not I'm not going to get paid to change the culture in your marketing, and who knows what else is going on in it. And that's not necessarily an English speaking first company either. So, I'm not going to judge them on that. I'm just thinking like, oh, okay, that's that's.
I agree, and fair play to you for doing that. See, it goes back to what we said at the very start when I said about you have these guys who are developers and they're very good programmers. But when you're running a business, you have to be the bottle washer and the managing director and everything in between. And you have to have multiple skill sets. You have to understand not just the developing of the product. You have to know how to sell, your PR, your marketing, your promotions and all that. And I find that a lot of companies might have a great product, but they don't sell it and they don't have good PR with it and they don't put it across. Hence why we need people like yourself who will go in and say, look, you've got a great product here, but you're not selling it. Your PR marketing is letting you down. So let me do a tutorial for you and I'll just charge you a small fee. That's what they should do because you've got a ready-made market as well. So people know that Tim Davis, he's got that YouTube channel. He does all Joomla stuff. So, you're going to be the first point of call to go over. And they might search and go, look, I'm looking for this product. Maybe Tim has done it. And the developers, if they're watching this video, they have to understand that they should invest in you and your time because, as I said at the start, you're very good at putting things across and how to do things. So they're missing the trick. Even if they were to pay you a fee, a small fee to say, look, a small fee per product. So they say, Tim, we have this product, we're launching this. Here's a beta version and we're going to pay you X fee for putting the video up here because you've got a ready-made audience. I don't know why you don't do that. They're missing the trick because you have a ready-made audience, they should, because it's hard to get the, when you do a video on YouTube, trying to attract the right people, and especially if you do videos about everything and anything. But if you have a certain area that you're focused on and you have the pre-ready-made audience there, the developer should be jumping on the bandwagon and going, I want to hire Tim to do that because he's got the people that will buy my product. And this is what they're missing. But you'll find that maybe some of these companies who are developing the products don't have a good understanding of PR and marketing and sales.
Yeah, I'm sure. I love to have developers on showing their stuff. I'll have them on for free on a live stream because that's great. I like watch time on my channel, right? And those get a lot of watch time. I enjoy talking to people and enjoy seeing that. And that's the best way to see a lot of the features. But I agree with you. I think that in not an absolute full way. Look, we see it in Joomla. There's a struggle between marketing and development. And and this is okay. So this is something I know very little about. And so I always want to be positive. My company's Cyber Salt. So I want to be the salt of the earth. I want to be salt of the cyber world. But recently there was a post in the Facebook group saying, what would you like to see in Joomla 5?
I've seen that.
And I would rather take a rusty nail and poke myself in the eye than even talk about Joomla 5. Now, the reason that my caveat is this, maybe they see Joomla 5 as not as big a jump as 3 to 4 is. And and listen, from 3 to 4 is not as big a jump as 2.5 to 3. There's a path. But so if Joomla 5 is something that everybody can update it and it's just going to have some great new features and developers will be able to take advantage of that, and we just want to have more versions instead of less jumps, I'm all for it. But from a marketing perspective, what is it? August, this is February. So 6 months, Joomla 4 has been out. And we're still waiting for some key extensions to be ready for Joomla 4 and that. we should not publicly be saying, hey, what are we going to do in Joomla 5? Because it's just scared the pants out of me.
I totally agree. When I seen that, I said to myself, hang on a minute.
Yeah.
Is it worth my while going to Joomla 4? Now they're already talking about 5.
Yeah. So
I thought the same thing.
Now, listen, and so I don't understand the what's planned from the programming perspective or what they're thinking. And so as far as the development side, I like it when people recognize me for what I'm good at. So I recognize what they're good at. And so I'm not saying, oh, they're stupid, they shouldn't even be talking about it. Maybe there's a reason I don't understand. Maybe it is that quicker updates. Maybe there's, whatever. So there are people that are good at that. The tension though between marketing is that it's like how can is how to present things to people and to sell things. So a case in point would be so I mentioned about Asteroid Framework and JD Page Builder that Joom Dev are doing. Love it. It got me going. Actually designing things again. Like being able to move things where I want instead of just using a static template, which I was using with another framework. And just love it. So when they stopped developing it, I was pretty sad, but that's okay. It's a business decision, and I get it, and that's okay. And it was disappointing for people, and I was disappointed too because I had I really liked using it, and I had been really a big cheerleader of it. So another company has said they're going to keep it going, and they forked it. They took it over, put it on their GitHub, and I thought, well, that's kind of cool. And then there was another company that was going to take it over, and I've been waiting to hear when that was happening. And I mean, there's the actual sort of more of official transition taking place there. There's other details in that, but here's where I'm at. So now it's 6 months since that announcement. I want to we're making sites in Joomla 4. I get the Cassiopeia thing and the core template thing, but I also want to have something that is what's the go-to going to be? Do I go with this group that has forked Asteroid, the first one, and they've already put out 4 or 5 releases, so that's great. They're working on it. I never hear anything from them. There's not, other than just the initial thing that they're taking over. I never hear, hey, this update is out. There's no promotion. There's no marketing. There's nothing about it. So but they're putting out updates. So it looks like the development's happening, but I just decided to myself, I thought now that it's been months and months since there's been, people are going back to other things, going to SB Page Builder, going back to Rocket Theme and different that we're using that. I thought I can't just say, hey, I'm going to start using this again if it's not going to work out. And I just don't want to put my eggs in a basket that's all promotion and no, that's all development and no promotion, because eventually if you don't promote it and there's not enough people using it, it comes crunch time, then you have to drop it. Right. Yeah. Which is why when in looking at things, I decided I'm going to go with CK Template Creator, because once I figured out and saw it, it's like, I really like it. And that's the next one that I'm going to use. But so that's that tension between development skills and marketing skills, like programming skills and marketing, it is there. And there's such different parts of the brain too. The two parties really end up getting it. It's very hard to communicate. There has to be a cooperation, and that does not always come easy sometimes in Joomla.
No, I totally agree, and that got me concerned 6 months after it just being kind of released.
Yeah,
they're talking about Joomla 5. Now, hang on a minute, that's a bit premature. I wouldn't be doing that. I wouldn't do that for another year, really. Yeah.
But having said that, I don't even want to. I mean, obviously commenting publicly. I mean, we're 2 hours in this conversation, so anybody that makes it this far, thanks for hanging around. But yeah. Yeah, on Facebook or Twitter, I'm not going to go on and say I'd rather stick a rusty nail in my eye. First of all, because that's going to hurt someone's feelings and discourage them. And I think, the better people are in Joomla, the better we treat them, the better we are in living in community together, the better it is for the project. So even for me to just joke about, oh, I'd rather stick a rusty nail in my eye than talk about this, I didn't say anything because I thought what we say publicly about Joomla, and when people are having fights about things or disagreements about things, that affects the brand. Right. And especially on Facebook or social media, other social media channels, people that are picking up on things and looking into it, if they say, oh, this is, I don't want anything to do with that, I'll just go with this other thing that doesn't have a community. They don't seem to be fighting. It's just, I just want the thing to work. I just want the product. Right. And so again, if Joomla 5 is something with some new exciting things and some, instead of someone has said, instead of adding 10 things into Joomla 5 in the year 2032, we're going to add one thing and call it Joomla 5. Then we'll add another thing and call it Joomla 6. I don't know. And even then, I'm kind of afraid to talk about it because I don't understand the full philosophy of the version numbering. Because someone would say, well, Tim, that wouldn't actually be a version 6. It would probably be more of a 5.4. And I think, I know. And I just throw my hand. I just throw my hands up and say, look, I just want to make web pages. I just want so
don't get involved in the politics. Yeah.
Now, before we continue, I'm going to stop the recording because I think there might be 2-hour limit on Zoom. Then I'll restart it so we don't lose anything.
Okay.
All right. So now.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So 2 questions for you which come to mind. Well, not questions. 1 question and 1 observation. I haven't seen you publicly advertising the fact that you should that you offer the service of promoting the products, because there's people who don't want to go on camera, on video, right? Mm-hmm. And the fact, as I say, that you've already made audience and you're doing that, I just think you should advertise that from now on your tutorials. I think at the end of it, when you're finished, you say, just to let the Joomla developers know that if they want me to do a video and test the product and demo the product and critique the product, I'm available to do that for a small fee. Yeah. Just to let them know, because and then push that out there, because I think they're missing a trick by not doing that. So that's just my own feedback on PR and marketing, because you have a niche market. That's what they need. The people that watch you are the people that buy their products. That's what they need, the target audience, a target market, and you have that. So it's a no-brainer as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, that's something I've thought about doing, and I do have it in mind to do. I really want to put it just on the on my website and just sort of lay out some of the things, what I would charge or that, like extensions that are free. I like contributing to the community, and the extensions that are free are the ones that I like to use. That's good. I do get leads for my channel. So, and even when I'm doing something, for a paid extension that I like, that scratches a niche for me. And it's I guess for me, it's I see that opportunity and lots of opportunities. It's just a matter of slowing down and organizing and putting it on the site, and also being able to be organized enough to do that. Because once you start taking people's money to do stuff, then you, like my last 2 live streams, I still don't even have the thumbnail done for them. Just because with hiring someone, first employee and this and that and stuff going on in life, is just I've just been flying. But no, that's because you know what, I don't ask for free extensions. I just now I've done some stuff and people have sent me free extensions. Hey, well, thanks for having me on. Hey, here's a license for a year or whatever. Hey, that's great. I like that. I like chocolate bars. I like free extensions. So that is great. And but I don't and I do see value in what I do, and it could help people with promoting, but I just not the person to say, hey, would you give me a free license and I'll give you some advertising? I don't know if it just makes me feel like I'm cutting myself off from the relationship of community in Joomla. Um, having said that, if someone contacted me and said, hey, would you like to do a promotion of this video or this extension? I would like to have a page that just says, yeah, I would love to do it on the channel or have you on. Here's just a few thoughts. Just check this over. Tell me, if any of these sync up with you. And because it does, to do YouTube well, is a lot of work.
Yeah, totally.
It is a lot of work.
You'd have to keep your integrity as well, for the simple reason being, if you go down, if the developer approaches you and they say, we're going to pay you for the extension, but we want good feedback, then that's lobbying. And you just have to say, I'm sorry, but that it goes against my integrity. You pay me, I'll give you an honest critique on your product. That could be good, that could be bad, but we're not going to give you a positive review if the product is not good. And that keeps your integrity intact, and your audience as well, because your audience rely on your advice for buying a product. So you're putting your neck on the line. So you have to make sure that that is what you're saying is, true to what you feel.
What I would love to do also, I think we've all built websites where if you've built a website for someone, then you've watched someone use it and it's like, oh, I had no idea they would ever tried to click there or do this. And then you have to reconfigure. I do think that when I get using stuff, there's little ideas. Even this new template creator I'm using, there's just like an obvious button that is needed that would just make it so much easier. And so I would love to test extensions. I wouldn't really so much want to test extensions in that sense for giving honest feedback on the channel, because I like to be positive and uplifting, and because there are some stuff, I'll try something on the JED to try to put something on, like the other day, trying to put some social media buttons on a very old Joomla site. And there's a couple of things just like, oh, this is horrible, right? So I don't want to make money telling someone that something is horrible. I don't mind making a bit of money telling how to make something better. But
well, you can be very diplomatic. You don't have to slate it, but you can be very diplomatic, or you can have an agreement saying, well, look, if we find that the product is not up to par, do you want us to do the video? And then they still have to pay you, obviously, but they can choose not to have the video out there. And they'll say, well, listen, what's your feedback? Why do you not like it? And then you critique it for them and then give and maybe they'll come back and have a much better product at the end of the day. So, there's a win-win there. We can always look at the positives rather than the negatives. The other question, the question I have for you, and something that has happened to me, and I want to ask your approach on it. What happens if the client comes in and goes, yeah, Tim, I did web design 30 years ago, and I want you to have that envelope with the revolving thing. I like that envelope with the revolving thing. And that was okay 30 years ago, but we don't do it anymore. So when the client insists that because he knows a little bit, he wants to be involved in the design, what's your approach?
Well, I have built sites for people that want to work on their own sites afterwards, and then they quickly make changes, and I look at it and I think, oh boy, another site I can't show as an example of my work.
I had that. I had that.
So, and that's fine. So my approach is this. I will tell them, like when someone says, hey, I want the sound to come on as soon as people are on the page. And I said, okay, it's not really good practice anymore, because people that are, if they're doing some work on their laptop in the room and their wife is sleeping next to them and this music comes on, it wakes them up. And so typically you give people the choice. And if they say, no, I really want it to, then I'll do it. Because that's what they want. I've told them. You probably will tell them in an email or something like that, just so later on and say, no, everyone says it's, well, I'll give you an example. I don't think this client would be listening. There was someone that was running for a city council position in one of our nearby cities. And he had been quoted a really high price, probably a fair price for the site that he needed. But he came to me and so he just wanted something basic. So I thought, okay, so I gave him something basic. And he started sending me he started sending me, he said, I have professional photographs taken. So I said, okay, great. This is a great professional photographs. The site's going to look awesome. So they were not professional photographs. It was professional photographer, but they weren't professional. I called, I knew I was in trouble when I called the photographer and I said, hey, I got the pictures you sent. Do you have any that are in, do you have any, all of these are in portrait. Do you have any that are in landscape? And he said to me, I don't understand what you mean. And I went, oh no. Oh no. So I literally said to him, well, some of them are taller than they're wide. Do you have any that are wider than they are tall? So he says, well, I can change some of the ones that we have. Anyways, eventually, because the pictures, he sent me a picture. Can you put this on this page? And it was a terrible picture. And I thought, you know what? He's not paying me to consult on his campaign. And it was just constant. So I just did what he wanted. And a couple days later, he contacted me, says, can you take that picture down, please? I said, sure. So I'm sure someone saw it and told him. Now, at that point, I told him so many things and just his whole approach. I thought, you know what? I'm just not getting paid to run his campaign for him. So this is what he wants. This is the path that he has chosen for his budget or whatever he wants to do, or his view. Eventually I have to just let him be himself. And so I did. So, but for the most part, I will tell people, it's probably not best. Here's something to think about, or it's not going to look good on mobile, or yeah, here's what you really need to change these tables. Oh, but I like the way they look. They're laid out. Yes, but on mobile they're not. Well, still, okay, that's fine. Because I think if I've told them, then I've met my moral obligation to give them the best advice. Now, in that other case, I met my moral obligation by not telling him because it was just to the point where it just was not going to be helpful to him. And that's what he wanted. And actually, because it was someone running for politics, I thought, hey, it's not wrong for people to see how this guy actually does things, because if it, that's honest. So yeah, those will, yeah. And so if you really want it done that way, then I'll do it, and you can pay me to do it that way because that's what you want. And if it doesn't work out, that's okay. Now, having said that, I like work that is making a difference. And I could see the scenario where if someone was just, not accomplishing something, where I might just say, look, I don't think that you're accomplishing what you want. I don't think this is having the impact that you want. And it's not really a project I want to be a part of anymore. But yeah, so I'm honest with people. I tell people I think you can still be kind to them, and in that sense, and my company's CyberSalt Consulting, so I always throw in the consulting to in those little bits. But if they really want to do their own thing and want it a certain way and they're insisting on it, then
yeah. I would argue the point a little bit. Reason being is because they're hiring you, and they're hiring you with your skill set and your knowledge to do the job, to present them in the best way. And they're interfering in that with their little bit of knowledge because they spoke to Mickey next door or in the pub, and Mickey told them, oh yeah, get that photo up there. And you think, no, you're hiring me. So what you're doing is, it's like hiring a Formula One driver and getting them to drive at 50 miles an hour. What's the point?
No, exactly. Yeah.
So that's my argument. Plus the fact that's your branding of CyberSalt on the website. And if anybody goes over there and sees it, they'll go, yeah, that web designer, yeah, he's not really that good, is he? So you have although you wouldn't say that to them, but you have your reputation there. But, this is where, I wouldn't get into an argument with a client, but I go, look, why are you hiring me to do a job when you're telling me what to do? Do it. Why don't you do it yourself? Because at the end of the day, you're hiring me and all the skills I have, and then you're telling me what to do, and you're not the web designer, and you're going to get 50% instead of 100%. Why do it?
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, I would not put my name on that site, of course, but but here's the thing, and I think for anybody who's making a living or starting out, you you're sort of on a sliding scale of, your clients get better over time. So yes, the Formula race car driver who's really skilled that is told to drive 50 miles an hour, he'll drive 50 miles an hour possibly if no one else has a car for him to drive, right? and and he needs the money. Now, it doesn't do anything for your reputation and your well-being. And so there's that holistic approach. I mean, that doesn't really fit. But sometimes the clients that you have or the people that you're trying to help are just that's who they are, and you need to pay the bills. I'm not saying, hey, do whatever it takes to make money, because I'm certainly not a person like that. But I built a website for a friend recently who was starting a site. They're an older person, starting a business. They're an older person, very, very skilled and knowledgeable in their trade and what they're trying to do. And so I was building a site, and they had some ideas, but, so I prevailed on some things and talked in that, but I was, designing it. And I said, okay, here, this is, I've really been trying to get, they want traffic in search engines. And I've been telling them about SEO and adding content. And they really, I think, just for their budget, they don't want to pay someone to write content, but for the time to write content, they don't quite understand. So there's been that give and take there. But the thing that scared me the most was I finished the site. It was pretty close, ready to launch, and they said, I'm just going to get my sisters to look at it. And I was like, oh no, there's sisters looking at this webpage. I know the family, I know the person. They're all lovely people, but I was just afraid of what the suggestion was going to be, because I had built it because this is, thinking in mobile and this. I even did some keyword research, and some of the terms that they were using over and over in their page, I said, even though that's what your business is providing, that's not what people who are looking for what you're providing are searching for. You should be using these terms. But it was a lot lower brow term than what they were, they were being very professional. But nobody would search for unless they were knowledgeable, no one would search for that. Again, you're looking for everyday people that are saying, I need a widget. And if they use, if there's a slang, it'd be like, we are a leading provider of tissues, and people are looking for Kleenex. Right.
Yeah.
So, and if Kleenex never appears on there, because that's the lower brow term or the more general term, no one's going to find your tissues. Even so, you've got, so, yeah, no, I agree. And you know what? I'm still learning business. And so, there's a point where when you're hungry, you're taking work. And then there's a point where it's like, hey, if I'm not going to be hungry anymore, I have to try to get different work. But there's an overlap time where it's like, I need to find different work, but I also need to work. Right?
Yeah.
So you have to avoid being trapped by the work that you have if eventually, and I think that's a sliding scale. So certainly for me, over the years, I remember years ago, I was helping set up a membership site for someone, and they really wanted Moneris, which is a credit card processor, people to be able to renew their membership, and it had to be Moneris. So I tried, and there was a Moneris plugin for Joomla and for this particular product, but actually getting it to work with Moneris and as a payment gateway, and I mean, this is years ago, and trying to figure it out. At one point, my shoulders dropped, and I realized I was going to end up making about $2 an hour on this project that I had bid. And so I thought, okay, I'm going to come away with this knowledge and how to do this. I'm also going, and that's also when I decided too that as much as I liked helping people on sites, if you wanted a site that you were going to make money with, then I was going to make good money. Otherwise, I was just volunteering my time to build someone else's business.
Yeah.
Right. And so I thought, hey, if you're going to sell something, and e-commerce is complex, and there's a lot of things to have all working together. So someone with an idea that doesn't know how to do an e-commerce site there's more value in the value of the site than there is in the time that it takes to set it up. And otherwise you're just building up everyone else, and you're always struggling taking what needs to come along. So I have really good clients. I have a lot of really good clients now. And I'm also able to give more direction to people that come to me, so that some of the people that come to me don't go with me because it's probably more than either they were aware of, or they still want to look for that cheap solution, or they just want to patch things up. And that's and that's fine, because I've grown to a point. But there was a time where it's like, this isn't the best, but this is going to be a couple $100 that I can make help this person out. And
but from a business point of view, for me anyway, I don't take over somebody else's problems. Yeah. So if they say, look, I have this website and it's designed in X, Y, and Z, I will say, I will to build you a new one, but I won't take over, because you don't know where the blue tack and sticky tape is on that website. And that could be more problems than what it's worth. So number one, I don't do that myself. Number two, when I walked in the IT side of things, and we'd get some company in and they'd say, well, we're going to offer you this product and it does X, Y, and Z, like maybe a backup system, and we would, wouldn't be me, but the finance director might turn around and go, well, that's very expensive. And they go, do you know how expensive it is if it goes wrong?
Yeah.
So what you're offering and what we are offering in as a web service is not only a website. We're offering the tech support. We're offering being there on the end of the phone. We're offering efficiency. Not that I'm looking for this guy and it's been 5 days since I spoke to him and we have a problem. I want you to fix it now. That's what they're going to be getting. So you're selling, I know it's an old kind of 90s saying, but a turnkey solution, which they have to understand. That's what they're getting from there. And they're paying for your experience. That's what they're paying for. Yeah. I'll tell you a story, very quick story, because I know we're ahead of time here, but, and this is a true story. In the 80s, my parents got in a central heating system, and there was a problem with it after a few weeks. So she calls out the central heating guy. And of course, my mother goes out and she goes, there's the central heating system. We have a problem with it. And he's looking at it there, for a few minutes. And then he reaches in his toolbox and he takes out the screwdriver and he goes, and raise my hand. He just turns screwdriver, bang, the heating comes on. Yeah. And my mother looks at him and goes, God, I could have done that. And he said, but you have to know what screw to turn.
Yeah.
And we as developers know where the blue tack and sticky tape is, and we know what screw to turn. And that's what they're really paying for. Our years of development experience, learning, the frustration and everything else, that's what they're paying for. And they have to understand that.
Yep. Yeah. That's, and some people understand it and some have yet to understand it. And I do find, in life, I think a principle in life is that your greatest strength can also be your greatest weakness at times. So, I like to help people. I'm able to, I not only try to help people, solve what they need, but I also think, what is it that they really need? They're, for instance, someone saying, I don't know how to add images to this folder, to this article. So I go, okay, well, that's stuck. And I show them and I realize they're using something that makes it incredibly harder. I can show them how to use that thing, but I can also say, hey, you know what? Can I just show you something just for free, just to show you a different system? You should, and look how easy this is. And if they go, oh, wow, that is easy, I want to use that, then you've helped them. And so that's good. And then I think down the road, if the person needs something, they're going to remember that you were actually helpful to them, and that can be a good lead, and it can lead to bigger things and to paid work as well. So that's I think that's a good approach. But if that's the only approach, then it's not. And it's something that my business coach is on me about. He says, you got to be intentional. He says, how much money do you want to make this year? And I'm like, I'm like, I just want to have things working smoother, and I just get out of some of the,
Well,
uh,
you're doing the McDonald's trick. You're doing the upselling, right? You're taking the energy to show somebody with the chance that you're upselling a
yeah.
product to them. So you have to do your upselling, which is fine. You're a businessman. It has to be done.
But where the strength becomes weakness is this. I like it. I really like helping people. Like,
yeah, I know.
yeah,
But see, that's the good thing because it's more natural.
Yeah.
You're not being fake. You're being genuine. But the kickback is there could be an upsell there as well with the product. Right.
So you have to step out of the comfort zone where it's like, hey, I'm really enjoying this, and I don't want to wreck this, but it's like I should probably say, hey, well, and have some kind of a pitch. But yeah.
Yeah, I went and bought a book years ago when I was waiting for a flight back from Ireland to London, and the book was only about that thick. And it was all got to do with sales. And it was one of the top salespeople who sold insurance. And in that book, and I can't find it. And I was looking, can't find it. But the one thing he said is, give your customer what they want, right? Yeah. Now, one of the tricks, I have worked in sales and selling insurance years ago. And one of the sales tricks, and obviously if this goes out public, this is what the sales people do if they're selling you insurance, but you can actually apply this to a lot of things, right? So what you do is if your customer's hemming and hawing and they don't know whether they want the website or everything else, right? So what you do is you get a pen and you get a piece of paper and you draw a line down the middle. And then you help him list all the benefits of why he needs a website. And that, right? Mm-hmm. And then on the other column, you let him list all the things of why he doesn't need the website and you keep your mouth shut. All right. So if you have 10 things why he needs a website, but only 3 things why he doesn't need a website, he's visually seeing why he needs a website. That's cool. And maybe on the next show, I'll divulge more business tips and psychology.
Yeah, no, this has been good. I've enjoyed it. I enjoyed getting to know you.
Good job.
Yeah. I'm going to have to get a better background.
I'll send you my one.
I know I need to, I want to have something that's got my logo on it and stuff. And I've been meaning to do that, but yeah. Good.
No worries. Well, listen, it was great talking to you. And, it's now 11:30 at night over here in Ireland. So way past my bedtime. But listen, this was a great chat. It was good hooking up and talking Joomla. And, if time allows, maybe we can do a part 2. Or if we get feedback from people who've watched the video and they say, actually, we like that video that you and Tim did. Will you do another one? Then we're going to have to think about what we need to talk about if we do a part 2.
Oh, there's lots of things to talk about in Joomla.
So I let you say goodbye, and you can press the button to stop the recording.
Okay, well, as I usually close off everything, thanks for watching, everybody. If you found this helpful, click the like button, subscribe, ring the bell for notifications, and as always, until the next time, enjoy your Joomla sites, and God bless.